So I went back to the people I speak to the White House to revisit this. And they kind of traced the development of this idea. So the midterm elections are November 3rd, 2026. And he was starting to say, if we lose, we could be finished. He would go on to cite the problems that they were having, which are jobs. The jobs aren't growing. And in fact, I mean, there was just a piece that came, a report that came out that jobs are now, growing. This is the slowest job growth period in basically 20 years.
Michael.
Joanna.
Okay, today we are going to start with a shout out to a correspondent that we have called Garfried. Garfried, if you are watching or listening, I want to thank you, because what other people may not realise is that with every episode, Garfried writes us a limerick. I'm going to read you one of the limericks.
We don't know Garfried's first name. We don't know if Garfried is a man or a woman. But
we have no idea.
We'd like to know.
And I am...
Although we don't have to know.
No, we don't have to know. In fact, it might be better just not to know. And
Okay,
Garfried might not have a chosen gender. Garfried may just be in the free...
But of course.
There once was a realm in a spin, where lies were no longer a sin. Wolff with Coles explain how shameless refrain makes nonsense the way you can win. Thoughts?
Brilliant.
Well, what I love is that everybody then
all
piles
limericks.
in.
That's the thing about a limerick. All limericks are brilliant.
Okay, and then there was another one. There once was a pres in late stage who'd lose every thought on the page, while Miller and Vance, with Rubio's lance, drove extremes as the midterms engaged. Anyway, Garfried, I'm deeming you the podcast's limerick laureate. And what I love is that...
And thank you. I mean, it really is. These are good.
These are good.
Great.
They're engaging. And then other people comment on them and say, good, like the one you did last week, better. So, Garfried, thank you. You've got a big audience. And also, big audience engagement around Melania. How do we deal with Melania's movie?
You could come on the podcast, Garfried, and you could do... live limericks.
Live limericks. Okay, that's like one of those people that, does that kind of live painting. So a lot of pushback on the idea that we should go and see the movie because we would be giving money to Melania. So various people have suggested...
70% of the back end.
70% of the back, and she's already got a upfront
40 million up front, 70% of the back end. 10 million for each of the corporate sponsorships she sells.
Okay, and we need to know what the corporate sponsorships are, because we should name and shame, probably.
Well, I suppose there'll be I think all you
think
get...
there'll be a roll of credits?
That's all you get. You get thanks to,
Thank you for all these brands sponsoring me. But several people have written in saying, actually, what you should do is go to the movie theatre, buy a ticket for another film, and then when you're in the movie theatre, divert to Melania so that she doesn't get the data that you've gone and they don't collect the ticket money because you paid for something else.
Do you go to the movies?
Are you asking me as a...
it's just...
I love going to the movies. There are few movies I really want to see.
No. Do you go to the movies in a theater? When was the last time you went to a theater?
Well, I saw Hamnet in a theatre. I live very near the Angelica or the Angelica. I don't know how you pronounce it. Angelica, yes. Downtown.
Yes,
which
I've lived near there too. It's a really super depressing theater.
Well, exactly.
And the people in it look depressing. The movies are depressing. The
movies are foreign. The movies are foreign. Yeah. It's. I agree that the screen I have at home is almost as big as the screen and I have a pretty modest television at home, as my sons are always pointing out when they visit. They can't watch sports on there because it's 44 inches as opposed to 75 or whatever the rest of you have. But I do go to occasionally, not very often. I saw a terrible movie there called After the Hunt with Julia Roberts, which was very depressing.
Oh, well, that's what everyone's talking about, so I can skip that.
What are you talking about?
I can skip seeing After the Hunt.
Nobody's talking about it.
Everyone, isn't it? That's a big Oscar movie.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, I find that incredible. I found it super annoying. Anyway, I love Julia Roberts in it, and I liked Julia Roberts.
Oh,
and
no,
I like
no,
Andrew
I'm
Garfield.
Wrong.
Yeah, I think you're wrong.
That's there's the other one, which is After the Something. I don't know. This is what we know about movies. Nobody knows anything about movies
Nobody,
now.
but I can talk to you. You know what's gone right off, which I'm really disappointed by? Landman. Season 2, Taylor Sheridan. Listen up. The women in season 2 of Landman are... I'm almost embarrassed to watch the show now. I devoured season 1, thought it was brilliant. The women in season 2 are so bad. They're so cliched. It's embarrassing. It's like they're all strange MAGA women. It's really depressing. I don't know what happened to you, Taylor Sheridan. I loved the first season of Landman. I could watch Billy Bob forever. This is disappointing.
Well, I'm in the second season of I'm probably...
in Landman?
I'm caught up on Landman.
Oh, you're in it. So you're watching it too?
Yes.
Well, don't you agree with me? You probably like the women because they're
No,
all young and blonde.
Actually, it's Billy Bob is so good that it covers for everything else. And so whenever anything else is whatever, I mean, there's several plot lines there. You just kind of do social media when those are on. And then he comes on again and it's riveting.
Yeah, I agree. He's so watchable. Anyway, Garfried, thank you for your limericks.
I mean, the sun and that has some relationship.
No, that's not working either. That's not working either. And then the sun miraculously hits oil, but then it all goes wrong. Whatever.
Oh, terrible.
Yeah,
yes.
And Demi Moore is wasted because she's such a good actress and she's not doing her best work there. And Michael, just reminding people, where are we going to be on January the 21st?
We are going to be at the 92nd Street Y on 92nd Street and Lexington Avenue. It's at 8 p.m., it turns out.
It's like a proper theatrical production.
Yeah, no.
Eat first. I'm going to eat first.
Yeah, no, geez.
Only protein.
You just invited me for dinner afterwards. I'm too, that's too late. www.92ny.org and Joanna and I will be live on stage. We'd love to see you there and take questions. And I think we're on stage for 90 minutes. Trump, Epstein.
And if you can't come to New York, or you are one of our many viewers in Australia or England, you can join virtually. They're selling virtual tickets now, which is great. So we're excited to be joined by as big an audience as we possibly can be. I did want to talk briefly about a fascinating report in the Daily Mail that says Barron, the 6'12" son of the president, 7'9" son of the president, is having elocution lessons.
A, what are elocution lessons? B, who has them? I haven't heard of anyone having them since...
Well, lots of people have elocution lessons in England.
Lots of people?
Lots of people in England have them. It's a big English thing to try and help you speak received pronunciation. It used to be less so now.
I see. Well, no one in America has elocution lessons, although now people can write in and say no. Everyone has
write
them.
in and tell us if you've had an elocution lesson.
Or you could say, I should have elocution lessons, which I feel might be true.
No, you don't need elocution lessons.
Because listening to myself on these things, I'm so nasal.
That is the first time you've admitted you listen to yourself.
Well, yeah.
I think you go to sleep listening to yourself, don't you? Just put the podcast on and drift away.
No, more and more I become, alas, unavoidable, even to myself.
You're not going to have elocution lessons.
Well, now I'm going to consider it.
I wonder who the kind of voice is that is most representative of the American voice now. If you're an elocution teacher, who are you reaching up to? Is it Joe Rogan?
Or Michael Wolff.
Or Michael Wolff, or Tony DeCopel?
I have no idea what Tony DeCopel sounds like, nor would I recognize Tony DeCopel if I passed him on the street.
But he would recognize you.
And does anyone know who Tony DeCopel is?
But Barron is having elocution lessons, and I guess it's because his mother has I have incomprehensible accent. No one understand what I say. And do you remember the video of him when he was little and he danced around going, I love my suitcase, my suitcase. So I think maybe his accent has stayed with him, which is why we never hear him. Can you tell me what Barron's voice sounds like? He is the silent Barron.
No, well, in his defense, what is the guy, 18?
I think he's 19.
Even so, this is a lot of pressure on a 19-year-old.
Olivia Rodrigo. There are lots of 19-year-olds out there having a great time.
Well, there are stars.
Well, I'm just saying I can't remember hearing Barron speak, and according to the Daily Mail, he's having elocution lessons, and I think it's because he spent so much time with his mother, who has a very strong accent, and possibly his grandfather, Victor Knavs, who presumably also has a very strong accent, and who looks like a mini version of Donald Trump.
Can we confirm this?
No, of course not. It was in the Daily Mail. It was in the Daily Mail, so it's possibly completely untrue. But I did think it was interesting, and I want to talk about so much to discuss this week.
But we can go as long as we're feeding off Barron rumors. Let's start one.
Okay, go on.
Or at least I have a question.
What would it be?
So Barron went to, there was all that drama about where Barron was going to college, and then it turned out that he was going to, unexpectedly, to NYU. So, but now they've made this kind of sort of announcement, not exactly announcement, that he was going to the NYU campus in Washington.
Right.
Suddenly news to everyone that NYU had a campus in Washington.
Yep.
But also going into the crypto business. Maybe there is an NYU campus in Washington.
So if anybody knows, is there an NYU campus in Washington?
And has anyone seen Barron Trump on this invisible campus?
Right. The interesting thing about Barron is he is, because he's so tall, like a basketball player, impossible to miss. Anyway, people have missed him, and we don't know where he is.
In the early days, in 2017, when they just got into the White House, and then Steve Bannon had this idea that they should do a photo op with the president and his son Barron golfing together. And Bannon said, because if your father golfs, you golf. It's just what is for everyone. And so that was proposed to Trump. He said no.
He said no?
No.
Because he thought Barron would be able to hit the ball further?
I mean, Bannon's feeling was that father and son didn't spend a lot of time together.
Okay, which would also explain why he's having elocution lessons. Anyway, another thing I noticed this week...
Because his father speaks so well?
Well, his father does speak in an American accent. Tucker Carlson, standing at the back of the oil executive meeting, has lost a lot of weight. I think he's on a GLP-1.
Well, curiously, I mean, I've known Tucker for quite a long while, like 25 years, and I've watched him put on all that weight. So it's like it's like an arc here.
So do you think, I think that GLP-1s become quite obsessive for people. People I know who are on them get very excited about being on them. And obviously it's transformational if you lose as much weight as he has lost, and also as much weight as Pam Bondi has lost. I think she's lost 50 pounds. I was looking at pictures of her and...
Could that possibly be?
It's possibly true.
50 pounds is a lot of pounds. I mean, that means she's
really tiny. Pam Bondi is tiny.
So did she used to be large?
Well, if you look at her face was really round, and it's now incredibly angular and sharp. She's clearly on them, or she's so incredibly stressed.
I mean, 50 pounds.
DOJ.
You take 50 pounds off your face. It's
all right. 30 pounds. She may have lost 30 pounds, okay. But she's definitely lost weight. And when I checked it out on ChatGPT, the summary of it was that they thought. ChatGPT thought she'd lost 50 pounds.
Well,
she's certainly lost a lot of weight.
Well, I mean, there's a couple of things going on here. I mean, you may lose weight just by working for Donald Trump.
For sure. But that hasn't happened to Stephen Chung.
Granted.
There was that fascinating picture. I'm just going back to the interview that the New York Times did, where they had 5 people surrounding him, but apparently only 4 reporters, so I don't know who the other person was. Maybe it was the photographer. And then on the sofa was Stephen Chung, sort of sitting hunched, holding his phone.
On the edge of the sofa, so that you were afraid the sofa was going to tilt
over. Yeah, and Trump had said to him, you need to be on a fat drug, right? I remember him saying that.
Totally.
Although Trump has said that about himself, too.
And Trump goes on. Almost anyone who is overweight in the Trump circle, and let's remember that Trump himself is overweight, but anyone, he goes on at great length about their weight. There was a off-the-cuff remarks where somebody recorded and passed to me during one of the fundraisers at John Paulson's house in Palm Beach.
Mm-hmm. The $50 million fundraiser?
Yes. And Trump's off-the-cuff remarks are, of course, like 45 minutes worth of off-the-cuff remarks.
Yeah.
But a good part of it is about one of the people who is overweight. Like, we can't say that word anymore. So we say the word chubby now. Now we all say chubby. And then he goes on to talk about so-and-so who is chubby, very, very chubby. And that has caused him a lot of chubby problems.
Well, what was he referring to? There was a moment during the endless meeting with the oil executives, which we must debrief on because it was so fascinating, where he singles out
Harold Hamm
and says, you're a great guy, you can just put a straw in the ground and find oil. And then he says, but you have other problems.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is he talking about? What other problems? And we never come back to it. I was hoping that little note that little Marco passed to the president would be about Hamm's problems.
I don't know, but he and Harold Hamm are very close.
Oh, they are? So what is his problem?
I don't know. Well,
It was slightly sinister the way he said it. Like, I know you have a problem and I need you to come to the table.
Yes, it's often when he does that a reference to women problems.
Interesting.
Or wives. No, he calls it wives problem. He's got a wives problem.
He's got a wife. What? He's got two.
I don't know if he does. I don't know if Harold Hamm does or not.
No, we have no idea.
Trump
Harold, we are sure
very, very attentive to that. He's very attentive to men and their wives. And I believe that Harold Hamm has a younger wife. Although, as one of the Trump people said to me, Trump is always pointing out when a man has a younger wife. But many of these men now are so old that their younger wives actually are now quite old, of perfectly respectable age.
Well, hasn't he pointed out that you have a younger wife, and he's also said your wife is hot, which she is.
Yes.
She's also very nice and very smart, I would like to add. But Pam Bondi, I'm concerned for because she's lost a ton of weight.
Well, let's go. To the specific thing. Pam Bondi is now under the gun, and the Wall Street Journal just had a piece basically saying that she's very close to being fired.
Right, she's got one leg out the door.
And it's an interesting thing. I mean, Pam Bondi is the Attorney General, but Trump has this relationship with almost anybody who is his lawyer, and he regards Pam Bondi not as the government's lawyer or the nation's lawyer, but as his lawyer. And in those relationships, they always come to tears because he expects lawyers, as though a lawyer is a magician, to solve all his problems and get him all the things that he wants. And this is going back to Roy Cohn, his lawyer who at least in his own mind, he built up into a magician. Roy can do anything, solve any problem, vanquish any enemy. So in the case of Pam Bondi and all his other lawyers, when they don't do that, then he gets incredibly frustrated and blames it on them. Now, this is interesting because in this Justice Department, the Pam Bondi Justice Department has he has brought to heel like no other president in modern history has done. So she has really gone out of her way to give him everything that he wants, things that he should not have, and things that the justice system writ large is not going to accommodate. But she's there trying to give him these things, giving him these things, and yet it's not enough.
Well, it's also not entirely working because the efforts, the efforts to indict James Comey went wrong. The efforts to indict Tish James went wrong, both thrown out because of the misappointment of your friend Lindsay Halligan.
Well, that's what I'm saying here, that the justice system in general is, thank goodness, larger than just the Justice Department. But even within that context, she's willing to do anything.
Right, no, it's entirely his fault that it hasn't worked out. And it must be very frustrating and stressful.
Except and it's a very important character note, nothing is ever his fault. Now, that is one of the elemental things to understand about Donald Trump and about Donald Trump's politics. It is never his fault. He is not psychologically or temperamentally able to admit fault. And this is what everybody around him says. It's kind of stable stakes in working for Donald Trump.
Do you mean table stakes or do you mean stable stakes?
I mean table stakes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Say this.
I think you meant Trump stakes.
Yes.
All right, table stakes, which I've never quite table stakes are like super basic, right? You have to have this to go forward.
Yes,
American expression.
I think it's gambling, which I don't know what that is either. But yes, but it's actually curiously an expression that I've picked up from Trump people.
Oh, interesting.
But at any rate, this is you go into this understanding that he can never be at fault. There always has to be something else, someone else to blame, some other rationale why something bad has happened. And you're in this thing. Everything actually is his fault because everything that happens because he wants it to happen.
Right. No,
everything is at his directive. Everything is trying to intuit what he wants. So he is at fault for everything. But he can never be. There can't be even the slightest suggestion that he is at fault.
Well, it must be very frustrating to be Pam Bondi trying to squeeze the Justice Department to your will, your master's will, and not being able to deliver exactly what he wants. But at the same time, half destroying the Justice Department. And of course, he had problems with his first AG, Jeff Sessions. Remember little Jeff, who was played by on SNL? It was one of the better caricatures on SNL. I want to say it was Melissa McCarthy, and then William Barr, Bill Barr, who refused to say that the election was stolen.
Now this piece in the Journal, which quotes unnamed people as saying that he's beginning to question Pam Bondi, and that's what he does. He calls up people and he says, so what do you think of Pam? And that is a sign of bad things to come.
So if he calls you and says that, and you're J.D. Vance or you're Marco Rubio, what do you say? Are you supposed to understand that he's calling because he wants you to agree with him that it's...
of course.
Right.
He says, what do you think of Pam? Then he will tell you. He will give you a microsecond to respond. You won't be able to respond in that second because you're kind of off. What does he want to hear?
Right.
And then he will tell you, and then you'll agree with that.
Okay. Ugh.
So,
right.
But this also. Remember, this is not the first person. Remember, Pete Hegseth was under the gun.
Yep. I think you also predicted that Tulsi Gabbard was going to go, and she's still there, but she's hidden. She's just, she says nothing. She's slid below the radar.
But the interesting thing is when you get this, when this now breaks, somebody picks this up, it becomes a story. That then becomes the person's defense. Pam Bondi now cannot be fired because if she were fired, she would be being fired because the Wall Street Journal said she would be fired, and Donald Trump won't do that because
it's the Wall Street Journal, right?
Well, so because anyone, he cannot be told what to do.
Right.
So Pam Bondi will lose more weight.
Okay, Pam Bondi will lose more weight. Pam, I think it's time you ate. The other thing you need to do, Pam, and I can say this as a woman, is you need to have your roots done. I think she is so busy. She hasn't had time to go to the hair salon. And if you look at her hair, initially we all thought she was blonde. Now it turns out she's actually got very dark hair and it's really growing in. So I know it's sexist of me. I'm just saying it's a sign.
I have no opinion on this. And I haven't noticed, actually.
Well, I've noticed. I hope that we can flash up the picture from the Wall Street Journal, which shows that Pam's hair has gone to a sort of ombre. It starts very dark.
Has she had surgery? Has she have a MAGA look?
Well, she's almost the original MAGA.
Have we seen before and after?
No, but I'm sure we can show before and after. You know what? Cassandra Gray, who started Violet Gray, which is a very upmarket beauty boutique, told me yesterday that the average age for a facelift is 37. 37! First of all, how do people have the money? And secondly, that does feel early. I'm waiting for my facelift. I'm saving up the money. Anyway.
You haven't had a facelift?
I long to have a facelift. I think we can tell I haven't had a facelift. I long to have one.
I don't know. I ran into somebody the other day who watches us and said and commented only that your skin is so smooth.
Well, that's because we have very good lighting in here. But I long to have a facelift. Anyway, we're getting distracted.
My wife says we have terrible lighting.
Well, she should come in and do the lighting.
I know.
Victoria, come in and do the lighting. You're very welcome. Okay, so we've got Pam Bondi struggling. I think that's fair. And then, of course, we've got everything else going on. We've got Trump meeting Machado, the actual winner of the Nobel Peace Prize, which I'm concerned he's going to, if she's brought it with her, I'm concerned he's going to grab it
I'm sure
and
he
say
will.
It's mine now. But we know it's non-transferable. It's like all those invitations you get on paperless post. This invitation is non-transferable. The Nobel Peace Prize is non-transferable.
Remember the Time magazine cover that he created by himself.
Also,
it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter. She's going to bring her prize. Anyway, they're meeting on Thursday, but I know you've been talking to people in the White House, and I want to know what they're telling you.
You know, I've been talking about Venezuela, but then also about Greenland. You know, and I think, and I'm certainly one of the people who has said, as this has been a kind of developing interest of his, that this is never going to happen.
Right. And what's that we're going to take over ownership and he'll become acting president?
That we're going to take over Greenland because, I mean, the first thing, there's no reason for it because we already have everything we want. The idea of doing this breaks so many conventions in modern international and political life. Why would you want this? But after obviously Venezuela has happened, and then this Greenland thing with Stephen Miller basically saying we're going to go after Greenland. So I went back to the people I speak to the White House to revisit this, and they kind of traced the development of this idea, and then it begins with in the fall. But it probably actually begins with the bombing of the Iranian nuclear facilities, in which
over the summer. So that was when was that? July.
Yes, and
the summer, August,
June, July. Yeah.
It all goes past so quickly. It's all compressed into a.
But he was delighted by how that worked out. You know. He kept saying no lives lost, no equipment lost. It's very focused on this idea of equipment.
Right.
And it played, and he kept going around saying it really played. It played.
Which is what he loves, right? When it plays well.
Yeah. So anyway, this in these conversations that I've been having, they kind of trace this, that they're beginning in the fall. He started to see that there was coming up to the 1 year mark in which we would then fight. He would have to fight, and the Republicans would have to fight the midterm elections. So the midterm elections will be November 3rd, 2026, and he was starting to get starting to feel it, and starting to say that he would say, if we lose, we could be finished. He has this thing. He likes to repeat the same word.
Like Epstein.
Yeah, exactly. And then he would go on, and with some almost self-awareness, he would go on to cite the problems that they were having, which are jobs. He seems to have been on top of that. That jobs aren't growing, and in fact, I mean, there was just a piece that came. A report that came out that jobs are now, growing. This is the slowest job growth period in basically 20 years. And then he said, in the Epstein shit, jobs, the Epstein shit, and then the ICE videos, as he says, these ICE videos that everybody is crying over.
So interesting. So he has a sense of it. Also, I'm sure another reason he's annoyed with Pam Bondi is the Epstein files. Right? That must be a source of frustration.
Yes, yeah, that she has not been able to kill that.
Right.
Yes.
Well, and in fact, she's prolonged it, and she hasn't brought them out properly, and she said they were on her desk, then she released them, then there wasn't anything to release. All of it. It's been a total mess.
So,
it's been badly handled.
And then his health, or as he said, the Dems saying, I'm fucking Joe Biden senile.
I'm Joe Biden senile.
Yeah. So
he does have a sense that this is going wrong.
Yeah, he has a sense that this is going wrong, that they could lose the House, and then even acknowledging the possibility that they could lose the Senate, which he says, then I'm back in court, won't be pretty.
Interesting. So what is his plan? So
then he said, and this started to happen early in the fall, when this whole kind of conversation started to go on, and that 1 year, we'll have 1 year. So he said, we're going to have to go for Greenland. Now, when he said this, everybody regarded this as a joke, just the more of a thing, and then people who are slightly more worried than that kind of quiz Susie Wiles. And she just kind of rolled her eyes and kind of refused to even entertain the possibility, Greenland. But then, it was always going back to bombing Iran and how well that worked out. And then he started has started to circle back and talk about Pete Hegseth. He's got all that spirit.
Because Pete Hegseth also looked like he was vulnerable after the Washington Post story about him saying just kill the survivors that had been thrown overboard from the boat strikes.
Totally. So this is an interesting thing, that Hegseth has come back in, that Trump has seen this stuff, the boats, all the use of the military as extremely positive. It plays.
It plays. And also, so you've got Iran, which he thought played, and then you've also got Venezuela. I mean, a remarkable extraction of Maduro.
Well, and that's the other thing. So he sort of announced, we need something for 2026, a standout thing for 2026. And it has to be a whole new big deal, he's been going around and saying. And it has to play. It has to play. We need something that has to play. And to understand that means something that captures all the headlines and all the conversation. So it's not really about good or bad. Mm-hmm. It's about about is anyone thinking about anything else. No, attention is a zero-sum game. Is it on him? And then they did the Venezuela thing. And the Venezuela thing was, as it's described to me inside the White House, is that it really was about getting Maduro. That was it. We'll take him out, and that's it. And then it was Trump, and we've discussed this before, who suddenly promoted this into an imperial vision, that we were taking over the country, and then followed by Stephen Miller, who has now sort of codified this into a
sort of policy.
Yeah, into a draconian position.
How fascinating. So Trump, understanding that he was in trouble with the midterms, which are in 11 months now, realized he needed something big that played well like Iran, and that's why they extracted Maduro.
Right, and so he said there's a line that I got from somebody quoting Trump: "We have a big stick. Nobody knows how we're going to use it. We're freaking everybody out. I'm unpredictable. I might do it, I might not do it. Nobody knows." And then this person I was talking to said, well, he's pumped.
He's pumped. So
the Greenland thing
could be a real thing. That they could go in and do it.
Yes, and there was another way that that this has been framed to me. It's in the old paradigm is superpower against superpower, mm-hmm. which from a foreign policy standpoint, in the way that plays, it doesn't. It's kind of stasis. Nobody really moves. But the Trump paradigm is superpower against people without power. So therefore, he necessarily wins. Venezuela, what are they going to do? And then it turned out there was a story. A story came out this week that the entire defensive structure of Venezuela was not turned on. I mean, they have not been able to implement it. They didn't have the. They don't have.
Worried about their carbon footprint. They probably switched it off.
So this is you're looking at a series of foreign adventures in which are no risk. I mean, even the Venezuela thing is. I mean, the Greenland thing is essentially just to threaten, stamp his foot, make all of these Europeans somehow rush around and offer things. And so I mean, my guess would be Greenland, he will get what he wants in Greenland, which will not change anything at all about the situation as it is in Greenland.
So I spoke to someone, I was calling some of my European friends yesterday, and I spoke to someone in Denmark who said that, so they've got the Danish foreign minister, or the minister for Greenland, and the Greenland minister responsible for Greenland coming to meet Marco Rubio tomorrow. And he said, this is the most important meeting for Denmark since World War II. And apparently the two ministers are competing with each other for who shakes Marco Rubio's hand first.
No, I am sure from their point of view, it's how the problem is solved by bending over and doing everything that Trump wants you to do, or wants everything Trump wants you to be seen doing.
So does the Danish Prime Minister, who's also up for election this year, does she just give up and say, here you go? Because where is the NATO thing? Because he's not going to invade Greenland, right? There's nothing really to invade.
No.
It's just those nice coloured huts.
No, and let's remember that there are two issues in Greenland: the defensive posture of Greenland and being able to use Greenland as a for its strategic place in the Arctic region, mm-hmm. In which we have all access to that. I mean, there's already a treaty in place. We can basically do anything. And then there is the Greenland resources, mining, minerals, I mean, as I think it's evident that the people that Greenland would like anybody to come and make the investment and
you know who should go?
Extract the Greenland.
Cooper should go from Landman and extract it. Or what about Harold Ham, who is able to put a straw in the ground and find oil?
Well, we'll go to the oil guys. We should go to the oil guys because that's another thing. So we've done this Venezuela thing. Why are we invading Venezuela? There would certainly be a rationale that Venezuela is run by terrible people, and we have
still run by terrible people.
Well, that was
still run by terrible people.
That's the point. They've had an election. They elected someone else. Those people were not allowed to assume power. So certainly the rationale: we're taking this guy out and we're putting in the duly elected people. I mean, there are problems with that as a foreign policy rationale, but at least it's a reasonable rationale.
There's a logic to it.
But we're not doing that. Quite the opposite. We're leaving the same people in. So then the rationale...
We're doubling down, which is something you always say he does. We're doubling down on someone who is equally bad, if not worse.
Totally. So, but then the new rationale, the realpolitik, became... we want it for the oil.
Right, and to bring in American oil companies.
Yes. Now, I mean, this is also a kind of weird inversion. The U.S. has been accused in many of its foreign adventures of doing it for the oil, and then we always say that's not true, when it probably is true. But in this case, Trump is out there saying we're doing it for the oil, except that then he's offering the oil to everyone and nobody wants it. So he has these guys, these oil guys, these American oil guys, come to the White House this week, and they kind of look at him, including the Exxon people who say, well, Venezuela is uninvestable.
And then he goes, well, we don't want Exxon investing there anyway, like a kind of 5-year-old.
So we've done it for the oil.
Yeah.
The realpolitik. Let's just rip off every pretense here. We're tough guys. We want that oil. And then it turns out no one wants it. No, not us.
It's so strange. So Greenland, you think he's just going to announce that we've taken or annexed Greenland? There's nothing that Denmark can do about it. NATO is not going to go in and fight for Denmark to have the right to own Greenland.
I don't think it will go. I think that the Europe and the Danes are going to realize, this is
not real.
This is not real. This is just Donald Trump. This is play acting. This is performative.
But it may end up costing the premier in Denmark the election. I mean, she's gone from being very popular to much less popular.
I'm not up to date on Danish politics, but yes, perhaps. I mean, I think it is
internally,
anybody who capitulates to Donald Trump. That's not such a good look. On the other hand, the other Trump threats from tariffs to military action to taking out the Danish prime minister. I don't know. She'll be in the same jail as Maduro. I don't know.
That's not going to happen to Denmark.
Well, never say never.
Well, I'm looking at my notes here, and something's changed. These are the notes that I wrote down. Something's changed, though. She's had to step up her rhetoric, and nobody in Denmark has any appetite for losing Greenland. She's caught between a rock and a hard place. Nightmare having to negotiate this for her. So she may well lose the election.
No. I mean, I think it's. I mean, Donald Trump makes things difficult for almost everybody. Who crosses his path. Because remember, he has to win. Someone has to seem to lose. He has to win. That's all that he wants here. This is it. I win. you lose even though nothing changes whatsoever.
So what will Marco Rubio say behind closed doors to the Danish and the Greenland ministers tomorrow when they come for their most important meeting since... I'm sure they haven't even had a meeting at the White House, Denmark, for 25 years.
I think that he says this is what we need, because Trump and his the implication is Trump is a crazy man, and he has to be pacified. So how do we do this? How do we do this together? And Rubio is going to have some suggestions. I think we can see if we get this to fly. And I suspect it is we will rewrite the defense agreement that we have in place. Nothing much will be changed in this agreement, but we will rewrite it. We will do something similar for mineral rights, and then the issue, and that will not change anything either. And then the issue will just be one of language. Trump wants to say we own it, and that will be the rub for the
Denmark,
Danes.
right?
And Rubio will be working this out. Can we say the following?
Right.
So, and he will say what this has to look like is Trump has to have the win. You have to give him the win.
What Trump wants is to be able to put out on Truth Social, as he did over the weekend, that he is the acting president, not only of Venezuela, but the acting president of Venezuela and Greenland.
Something like that, yes. Yes.
Okay, I loved the Exxon guys, actually. I thought it was such a good moment in that crazy meeting. And that moment where he wanders over to the door and stares out, and you think, oh, he really is a real estate guy, because what he wants to do is actually stare out at the progress of the East Wing. By the way, do they always play Hail to the Chief when there's a meeting like that? I didn't know if that was a regular thing or not.
No, it's not, because I've been in meetings with Trump, and I'm just actually now.
I mean, it just seems so strange to me that everybody had to stand up. There was some applause. They were playing a Hail to the Chief. He was pretending it was all sort of fine, but you could. I just thought it was a strange moment. We haven't even mentioned. And this is Pam Bondi again. Everything is coming back to Pam Bondi, the newly thin, stressed, gaunt-looking, needs roots done Pam Bondi, Jerome Powell, who I cannot believe suddenly interrupted my Instagram feed as I was scrolling through looking at the best dressed for the Golden Globes, saying I'm being charged by the DOJ.
Extraordinary. And this is back, this Trump thing. And there's a quote that I have from a Trump quote. And this was not. This would have come from the first administration. And it says, "I have all the power. I can fuck over anybody who's being an asshole to me." Which. I think it says it all moment.
Well, but Jerome Powell is not being an asshole to him. Jerome Powell appears to be doing the job that he was put in by Donald Trump to do.
But from Trump's point of view, Trump has a singular focus. I want interest rates to be lowered. If interest rates are lowered, that will help me hold the House of Representatives during the midterm elections. I want you to do that. You're the chairman of the Fed. I'm going to make your life miserable. I'm going to fuck you over if you don't give me what I want. I have the power.
And doubly ironic that he's going after Jerome Powell for this renovation of one of the federal buildings that they got into a kind of scrap about. And Jerome Powell made the mistake of humiliating the president. I think that's what it comes back to. And you're always saying he doesn't like to be humiliated. He didn't like the dances that Maduro was doing, poking fun at him. He didn't like Obama poking fun at him at the White House Correspondents' Ball. And Jerome Powell wasn't poking fun, but he wasn't letting Donald Trump get away with accusing him of something that was wrong.
I think it's awesome. Anybody who stands in his way, anyone who seems to oppose him, anybody who he interprets as being an asshole to him, I'm going to fuck you over. And whether this is, whatever this investigation and possible indictment is going to go nowhere.
Of course it's going to go nowhere.
It's like the Comey thing.
Yep. Well, they'll probably put Lindsay Halligan in to do it.
So it is just, this is not an investigation. This is a fuckover. So, and this is, this is not fun for everyone. This is not fun for Powell. This is, the cause of enormous stress and anxiety, and then undermines your reputation. It's just you're being fucked over.
You're being fucked over. Yeah, well, it was, and of course the dollar immediately responded by taking a tumble. Felt like a big mistake.
But there's an interesting thing here, an interesting bit of blowback here. And I think, first thing, Powell is blowing back on this, saying basically the Fed is going to fight this. But then there's another interesting example that's going on with Mark Kelly. So, Hegseth announced that he was going after Mark Kelly for
treason, right? Sedition.
Yeah, for anyway, for issuing a statement that people in the military, if it's an illegal order, they don't have to obey it. And we have had a back and forth about that.
And many thousands of comments about that. Thank you for those comments. People love Mark Kelly. They see him as a real American hero, and they do not see Pete Hegseth as that.
Yeah, no, without question. Mark Kelly is a hero. And is a military guy in the way that Hegseth is a pretend military guy. So at any rate, Hegseth threatened Kelly, and Kelly is now suing Hegseth.
Right, taking a leaf out of your book.
So and it's not dissimilar from what I got threatened the fuck over from Melania Trump, and before she could act on this, I acted and sued her. And this is a similar kind of thing. And I think people are starting to see this, that you have to, first thing, that these are kind of paper tigers in their way, and there are tools to oppose these guys.
What is it? Is it that line from Network, I'm not going to take it anymore? Just feels like people are coming back at him.
Well, maybe.
It's very stressful to do it. I get that, but it's clear it's the only way to do it.
There's movement. There are congressional Republicans are now starting to. There's something going on in this incredibly quiescent group of people. Suddenly there's pushback, and in the House they've just voted to extend the health care subsidies, which Trump has said he will veto.
Why would he veto that? That, to me, is going to be the single biggest issue at the midterms, although goodness knows what could happen between now and then. But if you're sitting there and your healthcare premium has doubled or tripled, how on earth are you going to vote for the party that brought you the big, beautiful bill, which enriches billionaires and leaves you literally unable to pay your healthcare insurance? How is that possible? And of course, record numbers of Congress people on both the Democrat and the Republican side are stepping down because they don't want to deal with this anymore.
Yeah, no, it's
a government of one.
Yeah, they've gotten. The Obamacare issue has always been an intractable one for the Republicans.
Oy. Michael Wolff, what a lot going on. All right, so we do have more questions for the very lawsuit that you just referenced For Melania. Okay, here is a question from Kelly Nevard, 7464. Could Wolff ask Melania, did her and Donald have an open relationship, or did she know he was having extramarital affairs, and has she ever had an affair? Does that become relevant?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure. Let me take that under advisement.
Okay, we'll take that under advisement. Here's a good question from Norma Jean Rahn. Where is Melania registered to vote? Did she vote absent last year when she was in Florida? If so, and her address is NYC, then that would be it.
Yeah,
right?
but that's not. She did vote in Florida.
She did vote in Florida.
But just because you vote in Florida does not mean that under the law that's where you are. The law would determine that you're actually domiciled.
Okay, well, here's another good question from Sashita, here's another good question from Sashita, 3900. I would like Michael to ask Melania how she travels between New York City and DC. Is that on Air Force One at taxpayer expense? Does she handle First Lady business from New York? Do she and Donald, I think some of these come from Europe, do she and Donald file separate taxes since her primary residence is in NYC and his is the White House?
All good questions.
All good questions. Question for Wolff's Melania case. Will he be subpoenaing Marla Maples to find out why she told Sandra Coleman to protect her 14-year-old daughter, who was a model, from all Trump's friends, i.e. the men at the Mar-a-Lago model party?
I think I'm not allowed to say who we're discussing.
Okay, well, it's a good question.
Subpoenas to yet, but yes.
Well, that's from Victoria O'Connor. Very good question, Victoria. All right, we've covered quite a lot of ground this morning. Well, don't look blankly. You can't remember anything you've said. You cannot remember any of it.
Nothing.
Big day for Denmark tomorrow with Marco Rubio.
We could continue to cover more and more ground.
Well,
just go on indefinitely.
All right, well, I'm just up-summing the week ahead of us. We've got the Denmark meeting with Marco Rubio tomorrow, where the Danish and the Greenlandic ministers are fighting over who should shake his hand first. I think it should be Greenland because it's smaller, and it's really about them. And then we've got Machado, the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize, coming in to meet Trump at the White House on Thursday. And then when is the president of Colombia coming? He was supposed to be coming this week too. He's packing them in.
No, didn't
These
he
are
come?
big meetings.
Didn't he come?
No, I think they had a phone call when the New York Times was there, which we weren't allowed to hear. But I think he seemed delighted that he'd been invited to Washington instead of extracted ignominiously like our friend Maduro.
Yeah, and I think we just have to see this in this. This is we're in this new imperial phase, which is, remember, this used to be the White House, no more foreign wars, White House.
Right.
We were going to extract ourselves from all of these conflicts. But now we're in the imperial Trump is an appealing. It's very appealing to him. He feels that it plays, and especially an imperial Trump that doesn't put anything at risk. So I mean, totally. I mean, I think from a foreign policy point of view, it's entirely novel way to see the world.
Yeah. Well, I thought your conversations with people in the White House very interesting, and for those who want to. You can either listen to this podcast again or you can read it on Michael's Substack. Howl.
Tales of our time.
Tales of our time, indeed. If you have been, thank you for joining us. Please leave your comments. We really, really love them. I love having a sense of our audience. It's so much fun. Garfried,
and if anyone else
what you're going to come up with.
Limericks,
poems, iambic pentameter, I can read them out. Okay, we grew up speaking in iambic pentameter. And we want your ideas for how do we handle the Melania documentary and the theatrical rollout. Anyway, we appreciate your suggestions. Don't forget to sign up for the Daily Beast B-Beast tier membership, which gives you extra content and dinner with Michael every Friday. Don't forget B-Beast, and Michael is now going to read out all our B-Beast tier members.
And
you're going to pronounce their names. It's a growing list.
I'm going to pronounce their names the way I want to pronounce their names.
All right, and you can write in and tell us if you got it right or not.
Are we ready?
We are ready for the roll of the names, the roll call.
Yvette Johnson, methinks, Betsy O'Farrell, Mills and Linz, Chelly Belly. Well, Chelby, it would be Chelby. Max.
It's not that easy to read out all the names.
Max Quibbit.
Cubit. Max Cubit.
Max Cubit.
Max wrote in to say we got his name wrong.
David Sharry, Thomas Moore, Maria Voltaine, D. Kujerwatz, Seen Lund, okay. John H. Overrocker, Deb K. Ostrander, Sandra Clark, Travels with Carl, Andrew Beaver, Capinator, Harry Clark, Dawn McCarthy, Daniel Dog Lover, M. Griner, D. Stone, Fulvia Orlando, Herbie, Andrew Mellor.
Andrew Mellor from the Ribble Valley.
Tatnall, Val Love Francesco, Will Hutchinson, Andrea Hodel, Bocock DC, Sharon Shipley, Connie Rutherford, Karen White, and Heidi Riley. Thank you all.
Very well read. And thank you to our production team, Devon Rogerino, Ryan Murray, Rachel Passer, and Heather Passaro.